Hey guys, I'm Lowend to Pro Beats, and in today's video I want to show you 5 different EQ techniques that you can use to improve your mixes. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and drop a like. Let's get into the video. Number 1. The first technique is dealing with low-end, high-pass filters. And how much do you filter when mixing vocals? I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about right now. I wanna play you just a bit of the track. The track is called Check the Rollie, J Young, SFL.
Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery. Yeah, rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this. Yeah.
I will bypass the processing on the vocals, keep the vocals really raw, and I will show you with a Fab Filter Pro Q3 how I use high-pass filters. This is how the vocals sound without any processing. I will bypass the sends also.
Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks.
As you can hear, the vocals have a pretty good amount of low end. That low end is not really necessary in the mix. To remove that low end, you can use a high pass filter / low cut filter. When filtering the bass out of the vocals, I recommend using a combination of 2 filters. One dealing with the really low frequencies that are unnecessary in a vocal, and because you are setting the filter pretty low, you can use a higher slope. For example, you can use 48 dB per octave, something like this, to make sure that the low end is really filtered. In combination with this filter, sometimes using a low shelf sounds really good. This is a low shelf filter. Let's play the vocals and let's find a sweet spot.
Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery. Yeah, rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this. Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery. Yeah, rose from the...
As you can hear, the combination of the 2 filters sound pretty natural. That's the goal of this technique. Another thing that you should know about using low cut filters: if you use a high slope, the results will sound unnatural and the filter will be noticeable. So my recommendation is to use a low value slope, no more than 24 dB per octave if you want the results to be natural. And let me show you how different slopes sounds.
Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery. Yeah, rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this. Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image.
Another thing that you should try is to use some sort of dynamic EQ to control the low end of the vocals. If the vocals are similar to what you're hearing with this example, you can use a low cut and a low shelf, but in dynamic mode. Let's say 100 Hertz and a low shelf, but this time in dynamic mode, let's say 5 dB.
I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books.
So these are a few filter combinations that you can use to clean up the low end of your vocals for a more natural sounding result. Technique number 2. Now I want to talk to you about the Q factor in a parametric EQ. In Pro Q3 we have this right here. So the Q controls how narrow or how wide the cut or the boost is. As a general rule, I tend to use wider Qs when boosting and narrow Qs when cutting. On vocals with narrow Qs, when you're trying to boost, you will get like a really unnatural, really piercing result.
And it's now I'm on point like this, yeah. I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image, I got the looks.
As you can hear, the result is nasty. That's why you should try using a broad cue, something like this, really gentle.
Books, watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this, yeah. I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this.
With cutting, when I try and get surgical, I use narrow cues because I want to focus on particular resonant frequency that doesn't sound that good.
Image, I got the looks. I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. You go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, yeah. I got the bars, don't need a hook. Made in this image.
And I want to show you the difference between cutting with a narrow cue and cutting with a wide cue.
I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary.
Even when cutting 30 dB, the result is not that unnatural.
Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this, yeah. I got the bar.
You're basically removing the energy of the frequencies around the base frequency you're trying to cut. Just use wide cues when boosting, narrow cues when trying to be surgical and remove resonant frequencies and other nasty things that you don't like in the audio. Number 3. With this technique, I want to show you how you can use Midside EQ to make room for your vocals. I usually use this technique on other lead or main instruments. In this particular case, if I play you the song, you will notice that we have a single instrument playing.
Yeah, I got the bars, don't need a hook. Looks, I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rook. Life is a game, and I play by the books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got.
I have a Pro Q3 on this loop and I want to explain this technique just a bit before I show it to you. In a mix, the vocals are mono right in the center, and when trying to make room for the vocals, you should consider that instead of carving space in the stereo information of the main musical instrument, you can just affect the mid section where the vocals are clashing with that instrument.
Yeah, rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in.
So with this technique, you can carve out some space for the vocals, but achieve a really wide mix. Number 4. Don't be afraid to use low-pass filters. Using the same example, the loop with the vocals, you can achieve some better separation in your mix by just removing some top end from other instruments in a trap, rap, hip-hop song. The lead instrument and the most important in the song are the vocals. To make room for the top end of the vocals, you can cut off some of the top end on the other instruments.
You in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this books. Watch me go long for the Hail Mary. Leave you in the dust like I left my flesh at the cemetery, yeah. Rose from the ashes, got past the madness. Now I'm on point like this book.
I'm using a really gentle slope just to achieve a really natural roll-off of the top end. In the mix, this roll-off is not that obvious, but it makes room for the top end of the vocals. If you do this with the elements that are clashing with the vocals in a mix, you will achieve a better clarity of your vocals. So try using some high-pass filters to create some space. And the last technique, number 5, is different EQs for different purposes. So the last technique is using different EQs. In most of my mixes, I like using this SSL 4000E console from Plugin Alliance. I like using this EQ because it's not visual. You cannot see the curve of the EQ, so you have to really listen to what you're doing. That's the advantage that this type of EQ has over the parametric EQ. And with this approach, you can really find the balance of your mix. This is a 4-band EQ. It has a high shelf, a low shelf, and 2 middle bands that overlap, so you have plenty of options. The other EQ that I use all the time and that I have now in the rack in the form of Wes Audio Prometheus is a pull textile EQ. The pull textile EQ sounds really warm, sounds really big. Let me play with the drums and show you what can be achieved with the pull textile EQ. So you can use a pull textile EQ for all sorts of things: drums, bass, vocals. I use the hardware on the vocal bus, so you should really try out EQs that don't have a really nice graphic interface in terms of seeing the curves. That will allow you to make really better decisions, and that will allow you to learn how to listen to your mixes. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, hit that notification button and drop a like. Follow me on Instagram and follow me on Facebook. You can join our Facebook group. It's called Mix Talk. Thanks for the support and see you guys next week. Cheers.